Hey worlders, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and welcome to my second Wheel of TBR for 2022, our February Wheel of TBR, etc. Before we really get into the video, I did want to do a quick update from the January video. I talked about the changes I was going to make in the video, but I hadn't yet made the physical changes yet, so I just wanted to update you guys. I did add the pink circles that are kind of like the mulligan circles when I have a bad mental health month to replace one of the red circles. I did add the additional red circles that I hadn't added last month, as well as all of the just general prompts. Something you guys may notice that I definitely didn't mean to do, but I didn't measure my circles, so they are two different sizes. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, I'll be making new circles sometime in the near future, I guess. But yeah, our circles are all ready for the game. I am filming this on January 22nd, so there is still about 9 days left of the month. So that is going to play into effect a little bit, but let me first tell you what I read versus what I didn't. I also am starting to keep a book journal this year, so I will never be like, oh, I forget what I read this for. For the prompt, the 5 W's, I wanted to read The How and the Why by Cynthia Han, which I did read. It also does count as my Buzz Wordathon pick for Books in Lala's Buzz Wordathon. One of my spins was also to read an LGBTQ plus author, and I read Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This book, I don't have to say anything else. I read it. It's complete. It's annotated. All that. And then I was supposed to read a sequel. For my sequel spin, I did choose to read an audiobook, and I read Hang the Moon, which is the sequel to Written in the Stars, and I did completely finish that in the month of January. I'm not even in the middle of it like I normally am with my audiobooks. The wheel spun a standalone, and for that I chose Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am right about there, which comes out to be page 96 of it, and yeah, I'm in the middle of that. And then the final spin was to read a book with verb in the title, which for that I chose Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I have not even started this. As you guys know, my rule is that I need to start a book in order for it to count not to get a red circle. But like I said, I am filming this on January 22nd. I technically have until January 31st to start it. This happened a couple months ago too, where I was positive that I would start the book and then I would just like retroactively owe a red circle if it didn't. What I think I'm going to do instead is make one more change to my rules, which I'm going to take the red circle for this because I don't know if I'm going to start it in the next 9 days. If I do start it before January 27th, I'm going to like make myself like a little ticket or something, and I will be able to take a red circle back in a future month, if that makes sense. So I'm taking a red circle for January because I'm not 100% sure if I will start it, and I wouldn't start it after the 27th anyways, just to try to make sure I can read everything on my February TBR. But if I do start it before January 27th, I will let you know in my March TBR, and I will get like a ticket or some sort of reward that would prevent a red circle in the future. I hope that makes sense. As per usual, I am taking part in Books in Lala's Buzz Wordathon. The word for, or the type of word for the month of February is pronouns and like possessive words. So like you, me, he, she, I, me, but also like yours, mine, hers, his, theirs. I did pull a couple of books off my shelf that I think are good examples that I'm hoping one of them will fit into my TBR. But some of the books I have on my TBR books that I have not read yet are The Lies We Told by Camila Way, My Favorite Half Nightstand by Christina Lauren, also by Christina Lauren, Dating You, Hating You, which I was supposed to read for a buddy read last year and never actually read. Sorry, Kelsey. Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. And much like The How and the Why, a book that has been on my TBR, has been on my radar, I've been talking about reading forever, is I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. So this is a double pronoun, so hopefully I can get one of these books in or one of the other books I have with pronouns or possessive words on my TBR into it. If not, I will probably be adding a second audiobook this month. But yeah, we'll talk about it in the end depending on what I pick. I'm not taking part in any other readathons or buddy reads or book clubs, so I don't have to try to add anything else to this TBR. Let's add our first prompt. Like I said, I am going to take the red circle for Two Can Keep a Secret, so take out the red circle bag. I did pick an old one, but that's okay. Oh my god, it is our ever popular, ever returning self-destruct red circle. If you guys watch my channel regularly, this is the third time that we've gotten the self-destruct red circle. I have read 2 of the books on my self-destruct list, and I don't know, maybe fate is just trying to make sure that I get through all of them before September 30th, I think is when I have to read them by. Also, if you are new to my channel, the only other rule I really have is that for the next spin, it can't land on this green triangle, but it can on every other spin. It just can't land on the last one. So ready, set, spin number 1. A book that is a reread. All right. I'm going to look through my red TBR and pick a book to reread during the month of February. Wheel spun a reread this month, and for this month I am going to use my reread as one of, or not as one of, but as my audio pick for the month, and I am going to be rereading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I read this book when I initially got into BookTube years ago. I had taken it from my library, so I don't even have a physical copy of it. But recently the movie came out with Lucy Hale in it, and I rewatched it, and I realized how little I actually remember from this movie. And I also know that it has recently blown up on Book Talk, and it seems to have controversial opinions. So I'm really interested to see how I feel about it. I typically do not re-rate rereads, but I do want to look and see what my initial rating for this book was, because I don't remember. I originally gave it 5 stars. And this was back when I was really getting new at reading and was like initially getting into it again. So I don't think that if I was reading it for the first time now it would be a 5-star read, but I'm very interested to see how I feel about it now, like 4 years later. All right, and now we can go back to our white circles. Another small one, but that's okay. This is a TBR game, so basically I would have to pick someone else's TBR game and play it on my own, which I'm not sure how I would do that today, but we'll figure it out. And spin number 2. A book with a number in the title, so any book that I have on my TBR that has a number in the title would count for this one. I feel like the Velcro is coming off on this one. I might have to get a new piece. The Wheel spun a book with the number in the title. For that, I chose 4321 by Courtney Stevens. Let's see, what does it say? This says, on June 15th, 23 people board bus 21 in New York City. On June 15th, 19 people die when bus 21 explodes. Less than a year later, 4 teens who survived the explosion attempt the impossible, to return to New York City board an art installation made of the remnants of bus 21. There is Golden Go Jennings, a commune-raised girl who refuses to cry, Chandler Clayton, Go's boyfriend who refuses to talk about that day, Rudy Guthrie, the guy who invented Go to Ride, bus 21, who refuses to quit living, and Caroline Escott, the bomber's girlfriend who refuses to live. They all survived the explosion. Can they survive their guilt? So this book reminds me a lot of All We Can Do Is Wait by Richard Lawson, which was one of my favorite reads of 2021. It's definitely a hard-hitting contemporary. I am like 95% sure too I added this book to my TBR because years ago Natasha from My Reading Is Odd had read it and said that it was good, or it was on her TBR. I'm not really sure. Also, the adding on of Caroline, who was the bomber's girlfriend. Reminds me a lot of Hate List. I can't remember who it's by, but basically it's a book about a school who's coming back after a school shooting, and one of the students who's going back is the shooter's girlfriend. So just like the guilt and the survival's guilt and the like, I should have done something, I should have known, I feel like is going to be there. Plus this book I think is kind of interesting. Like the pages have like the pattern, because on the chapter pages it has like what looks like broken glass. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. I would not be surprised if this book has a lot of content warnings. So when I do read it and do a wrap up, I'll talk about that in my wrap up. But I am very intrigued, and it has been a book that's been on my radar and I always see it. So I'm interested. And another replacement circle. A book with disability rep. All right, spin number 3. A book that has a character's name in the title. I think I know exactly what I'm gonna pick for this one, because it was supposed to be on my January TBR and I'm really excited to get to it, but we'll see. The wheel spun a circle that had a character's name in the title. If you guys watched my January TBR, you know that I had a book picked out for the LGBT author challenge, but because Love and Other Disasters, which was one of my most anticipated reads, was a book of the month, I chose to switch them out. But that book, which I did really want to read, does fit with character's name prompt, and I ended up choosing Get a Life by Talia Hibbert. Hey, editing Emma here. I've gone through this multiple times and it just bothers me every time, so I do want to just put it in. The book is called Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. It was just really bothering me. The back of this book says, Chloe Brown is a chronically ill computer geek with a goal, a plan, and a list. After almost, but not quite dying, she comes up with 7 directives to help her get a life, and she's already completed the first. Finally moving out of her glamorous family mansion. The next item, enjoying a drunken night out. Ride a motorcycle, go camping, have meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable sex, travel the world with nothing but hand luggage, and do something bad. But that is not easy being bad, even when you've written step-by-step guidelines on how to do it correctly. What Chloe needs is a teacher, and she knows the man for the job. Redford Red Morgan is a handyman with tattoos, a motorcycle, and more sex appeal than 10,000 Hollywood heartthrobs. He is also an artist who paints at night and hides his work in the light of day, which Chloe knows because she spies on him occasionally, just the teeniest teensy bit. But when she enlists Red in her mission to rebel, she learns things about him that no spy session could teach her, like why he clearly resents Chloe's wealthy background and why he never shows his art to anyone, and what it's really like beneath his rough exterior. I don't think I've ever read the summary of this book, and oh my god, this hits so many of my favorite tropes. I love books that involve like lists, like Since You've Been Gone and Love Life in the List, and there's another one and I just can't remember what it is, but I love books that center around lists and like goals that the author needs to get. I also love books where it's like they're gonna teach them how to do something, and that's kind of like, they're not friends to lovers, they're not enemies to lovers, they're like teaching them. I don't know what that would be called, but I love that trope as well. So I'm very, very excited now to read this. I have a feeling that once I read this, I'm going to need to get my hands on the other 2 right away. I've never been as excited to read this book as I am now though. Like, never. So there's that. The next replacement. Trying to get one of my new circles on the board. A book by a favorite author. It's fine. It is fine, it is fine, it is fine. Spin number 4. A Treat Your Shelf. So this is, I get to pick a book on my TBR and treat myself to it. So the wheel spun a Treat Your Shelf, which basically just means that I and go and buy a book. So I went onto my Amazon wish list that I have and I bought Blitzed by Alexa Martin. This is the third book in a companion series. Basically, the companion series is about like football wives and football girlfriends. I don't know much of anything about what this one is about, but I loved Fumbled and I loved Intercepted, so I have high hopes for this one, and it is number 3, so we'll see how I feel. Alright, and the final replacement for this month a book with an illustrated cover. And our final spin. A book by a favorite author. The wheel spun a book by my favorite author. I looked through my shelf and I have some favorite authors, but not a lot of them fit the criteria if I wanted to try to get a Buzzwordathon pick in here. So I did end up choosing my favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren is one of my favorite authors. I have not read this one yet, obviously, but it was on my 2021 books on my radar. I recently did a video where I rewatched it, and I talked about how the premise of it reminds me of the movie Two Night Stand with Miles Teller. But basically, the back says, Millie Morris has always been one of the guys, a UC Santa Barbara professor. She is terrible at getting personal, and she, just like her 4 best guy friends and fellow professor, is permanently single. When the university function turns into a black tie gala, Millie and her circle make a pact that they'll join an online dating secret service to find +1s. But there's a hitch. After making the pact, Millie and one of the guys, Reed Campbell, Spencer Reed, secretly spend the sexiest night of their lives together, but decide they would be better off platonic. Online dating is not for the faint of heart. While the guys are inundated with quality matches, Millie's first profile garners nothing but beep pics. Enter Catherine, Millie's fictional persona, in whose shoes she can be more vulnerable than she's ever been in person. Catherine and Reed strike up a digital pen palship, but Millie can't resist temptation in real life. Either. Soon, Millie will have to face her worst fear, intimacy, or risk losing her best friend. Perfect for fans of Roxanne and She's the Man, you'll want to swipe right on your favorite My Half Night fan. Okay, so obviously when I made the comparison to Two Night Stand, I really didn't know much about what this is about. The beginning of the premise reminds me a little bit of the show, I think it was on TBS, and I never watched it, but I remember the commercials where it's like, I think it's called like One of the Guys or something like that, and it like is a girl who only has male friends, and I don't know. I remember reading that. I love She's the Man. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. So I think this will be interesting. It, I believe, is one of Christina Lauren's earlier book novels, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, it came out in like 2018, so I don't know where that comes in on their like list, but I believe it's one of the earlier ones. I don't typically hear people talking about it, so it'll be interesting to read, and yeah, I'm interested. And these are 3 out of the 5 books that I'm setting out to read in the month of February. Additionally, we have the reread of The Hating Game, as well as Blitzed. But then for books themselves that I own, I have my favorite Half Night Stand, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I do try to order the books by what I think is going to be my favorite book, and it was really hard because in the placement, like even if I owned a copy of Blitz, I don't know where I would put it because I love Alexa Martin. Like easily could have put Alexa Martin into the slot that Christina Lauren is currently taking with my favorite author, because I do thoroughly enjoy her. But I also love hard-hitting YA contemporaries, which is more or less what I think 4, 3, 2, 1 is going to. And then Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I've heard amazing things and it hits so many of my favorite tropes. So I don't want to say that like I think I'm gonna have a really good reading month, because that feels like it's going to jinx it a little bit, but I definitely am feeling what I have picked for the month. And yeah, this is what I'm going to be reading in the month of February. Have you read any of the books that I'm going to be reading? What do you think? Does Get a Life Chloe Brown deserve the hype that I have heard from it and literally just gave it? Let me know in the comments down below, as well as letting me know what you will be reading in the month of February. And if you got to the end of the video, add a little bus emoji into your comments. All right, I will talk to you guys in another video, and yeah, bye worlders. And my battery's already dying. Oh, I just dropped my bag. Oh well. I am filming this on, Siri keeps hopping up.